Welcome to the University of Santa Monica, the Worldwide Center for the Study and Practice of Spiritual Psychology. My name is Barry Clark, and I am the Director of Admissions here at the university. Probably the number one question that we get asked from people who are looking at the master's degree program in spiritual psychology is, what do you do with a degree in spiritual psychology? And even beyond that, what is a degree in spiritual psychology? So we're constantly working to answer that question to the best of our ability. Talking about a program that is a very experiential program in terms of the learning that you get here. One of the questions that we've got is like, can I spend some time with a grad? I just want to ask a grad some questions. And we've gotten that so much that we thought, why don't we do a panel of alumni so that people can ask them questions directly? So we've got a great evening planned with you. It is a panel of 5 grads who are in different businesses, and they're here to answer your questions. I do have some questions that people emailed in that we'll also address. And, we just look forward to having a great evening with you guys. I'm a grad myself, class of 2004. That was from the 2-year master's degree program in spiritual psychology. I also graduated from the 3rd-year program, Consciousness, Health, and Healing, and that was in 2008. We also have a professional soul-centered coaching program that we started 2 years ago. And our grads are coming from all different backgrounds professionally. We've got people who are from the entertainment industry, educators, doctors, moms, dads. I mean, really, you name the field, and they've come to USM. The age range is from mid-20s all the way up to mid-70s. And it's also, it's a great environment to be in with all that diversity, and people are coming from all around the world. This past year in class, we had one woman who was coming in from Dubai. We had 2 other people that were coming from France. People come from Canada, from Mexico. They really come from all over. So when you're in the classroom, it's this very rich mix of people that you're getting to do the program with. So speaking of rich people, let's bring up the grad panel. So, Kirk, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Hi, I'm Kirk Souter. I'm a graduate of the Master's in Spiritual Psychology program from 2006, and I'm also a graduate of the Consciousness, Health, and Healing program, which I finished in 2012. Before this, Barry said, try and talk about your experience here, but keep it under 3 minutes, and that's a challenge because so much happens here. But I'll do my best. I came here, first of all, I'm a father of 2 kids. I'm a husband of an amazing wife, and I'm the co-founder of a business here in Santa Monica called ENSO that helps brands unite their business with positive social impact. We're about 30 people. We work with brands like Google and Khan Academy and so on. When I came to USM back in 2004, at the time I was president and executive creative director of a 300-person agency in San Francisco. And it was interesting because I had arrived where I always thought I wanted to arrive, and yet when I arrived there, I just found that space kind of empty compared to what I thought it was going to be. And I kind of went on a search for meaning and purpose, and through a series of events that I won't go into to make this shorter, I found USM. And at the time, I think I was looking at USM as a means of kind of giving my career trajectory that would create more purpose for me and so on, which it did. But upon being here for just a couple of months and a couple of the weekends, I realized I was here for something much bigger and much more fundamental as it pertained to my life, and that the principles and the practices that we did here and helping me kind of let go of self-limiting beliefs and issues and so on, had an impact well beyond my career. It had an impact in every aspect of my life. A revitalized relationship with my family, my wife, my children, my friends. And yes, a definite new connection. At the time I thought a new career was going to be what was in store for me as a result of coming here. But what USM did was enable me to let go of a key self-limiting belief around that what I did for business had to be separate from what I did for service and for doing good. And in letting go of that belief, it enabled me to imagine and envision a new kind of company, and that's what ENSO is. It's a company that uses the craft I had been learning for all those years, but towards the area of positive social impact. So we build creative campaigns and engagement to help brands unite with people and do really positive things. So in the end, I got kind of what I originally came for, but I got so much more in terms of the impact on my life. And I had a great experience the last couple of days because one of the people who works with me at ENSO enrolled in the first weekend, and through just osmosis over the past couple of years, she had gotten to know about this and so on and decided to enroll. And it was so validating seeing her on the Monday afterwards because, all the things that I had told her were my experience had become her experience in the very first weekend. And it was really validating and a joy for me. So that's my story. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bauman, and I am a 2008 graduate of the University of Santa Monica, the master's program, and a 2012 graduate of the Consciousness, Health, and Healing program. You kind of stole my thunder. I was like, when I too arrived in this room having sort of achieved a lot of what I thought I wanted to achieve on the outside. I'm a lawyer by training. I was practicing law at an entertainment company. I was a vice president. I was married. I still am. You married. I had 2 kids. I sort of had done all of I kind of met, for the most part, the goals I had set, as a young adult and as a teen. And I was approaching 40, and was just having this. It just didn't feel the way I thought it was going to feel. It didn't. There was something missing. I didn't even really have the language to describe what I was experiencing. What was going on for me was there was a lot of what I call like riding the emotional roller coaster of good news and bad news. So like something good would happen and I'd feel great, and then something bad would happen and I'd feel awful, and then something good would happen. And if you practice law, if you know anything about law, there's a lot of good news and bad news. And so it made for this kind of very volatile, emotional, dramatic life, and it was exhausting. And so I was in this experience of wanting more, wanting to expand, and being really stymied and afraid of bad news or failure, of rejection, all the things that I associated with things not going the way I would like them to go. One of the things I remember saying was like, I wish good news felt as good as bad news felt bad. Like the good news just never seemed to quite stick enough. And so I found myself, and so grateful that I found my way here, and just had a tremendously transformative experience. Really every aspect of my life is different. My relationship with my husband is different. My relationship with my children is different. My relationship with myself is different. And one of the ways I started to really know how different I was in my job as a lawyer. I had an arbitration coming up, and one of the things I really worked with in the program was really, what I got from that, what I learned about that emotional roller coaster was how much I had been attaching my own sense of worth and value to what I did in the world. So if I did something well, I felt worthy, I felt enough, and if I made a mistake or I did something bad, it really threatened my sense of my own enoughness, my own okayness. And so I tried to set my life up so that I never got any negative feedback and that everything was always okay. And what that meant was it just made my life really small and really suffocating. So in the program, one of the things I really got to work with was letting go of that limiting belief, doing that work, and really having not just an intellectual experience, but an experience that my worth and value is inherent, that it can be neither enhanced nor diminished by anything I do, and that enough is who I am. And so to have that as an experience, not as an idea, but as a place to live from, really changed everything. And I got to sort of bring that back into the corporate world, into the practice of law of all things. Can you imagine? So here I am, preparing for this arbitration. And in my previous experience, anytime I ever prepared for a trial or for an arbitration or for something, it was such an experience of stress and anxiety. And I really used it as an opportunity to practice what I've learned and take dominion over inside of myself, like, I'm going to focus on what I can focus on. All I can do is the best job I can do, and I'm not in charge of the outcome. Who I am has nothing to do with what happens here, and just to experience the freedom of that and the creativity and the joy. And I had this wild experience the night before the arbitration, the afternoon before it was like 3 o'clock, and I had nothing else to do. Like, I was totally ready for this arbitration. I was like, wow, that is a radically different experience. So I do the arbitration, it goes very well, felt really good, and it was over, it was done. The next day I get this email from opposing counsel, of all people, just raving about my cross-examination, like it was so amazing, and you just destroyed him, and you just was incredible. And I was like, and it was a wild experience. That doesn't happen all the time. But what the great part about it was, like, I appreciated it, and I took it in, like, that was great feedback about what I did, but it wasn't the roller coaster. It didn't make me feel more worthy, it didn't make me feel more enough. It was just information that this approach of coming from a more centered place, a heart-centered place, a place grounded in my own enoughness is effective. It was powerful. I didn't need to stay there all night the night before to get ready to do it well. It was such a reflection of what else was possible. So I'm profoundly grateful for this education. I could spend the rest of the evening telling you all the ways that it's changed my life, but I will not do that to you. You will have to come up to me afterwards, and I'm happy to do that, and happy to answer any questions people have. So thank you.
Hi there, I'm James Price, and I graduated in 2002 from the 2-year program, and then I did the follow-up 3rd-year program, Consciousness, Health, and Healing, in 2012. In fact, a couple of us did that together. So what's valuable to share with you? I might just do a flashback. I just celebrated my 50th birthday, which was really exciting, about 10 days ago. So I know it's hard to believe, right? I look so young and vital from all this spiritual work. But if you go back maybe to my late 20s, I was, a pretty high achiever. I was really striving to have this sort of experience I was looking for, that if I had done enough things and got enough trophies and acknowledgments, that there would be this sense of peace that would come over me. The experience, I would be like I would have crossed a finish line, and then I would be enough. There'd just be a sense of, oh, that's what it feels like to have gotten that love or whatever I needed. And it didn't happen. When I got into my mid-20s, I achieved some really great successes, had a multi-million-dollar company I was running, and all these things. And then what I found was it was starting to become more and more painful to have the experience of the success. And lucky enough, a guy came into my life who became my coach, introduced me to coaching. This is the mid-90s, before we knew what coaching was. And I would see him and think, man, I want to be doing what you're doing. And mainly what I wanted was the peace that I could feel he was having inside. My big desk and everything I had did not give me the sense of well-being that I was experiencing inside of him. So he became my teacher, my coach. It led me on this sort of spiritual path to go to USM. And I was really grateful. I did the 2-year program and healed a lot of relationship stuff, especially with my father. I realized how much my needing to be enough came from that relationship. And so I picked him as my 2nd-year project. We do that in 2nd year. You pick somebody significant. And so I was really grateful for that. Did some really great healing. Almost 6 months after I graduated from USM, my father got up in the morning, walked the dog, came into the bathroom, and had a heart attack and died 6 months after the program. It was so profound that I had been able to have that time and that peace with him, before that happened. So I really felt great after I graduated and healed with my father. Fast forward 7 years later, this is maybe 2009, I realized there was one relationship that I hadn't completely 100% healed, the most significant one, the one with me. That deep, deep part of me that still was not quite feeling 100% whole, still not quite enough. And I'm so grateful that I decided to enroll in the CHH program. And I did one particular thing, which was I worked with a rating scale from 1 to 5 of radical self-acceptance. How radically self-accepting can I be of me? And it was amazing, the transformation. And so graduating from that and doing all that work, I guess I would say, how would I articulate what it feels like now inside of me 20 plus years later, is have you all seen, maybe a lot of you seen The Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, and it was just about a professor at Princeton who had schizophrenia. But what was interesting is as the movie progressed, you'd realize that in his schizophrenic, there was these delusions that he'd have, and you'd flash back and forth. And in many ways, that's what it sort of feels like to be in our authentic self, and then to have this ego making up stories about how life should be and all the judgments that go on, right? And what was beautiful is the end of the movie, if you recall, it's like the movie went on and he got some help and he kind of really started to figure out the difference between what's real and what's not, who the characters were. Ed Harris played this kind of character in it. And what was beautiful is at the end of the movie, you fast forward and be an older man and he's receiving the Nobel Prize for economics. And he walks out of the auditorium after getting the award, and there are the characters. And you're just going, oh no, he's still got that thing going on. But what's so beautiful is he recognized now what they were. So it had no power on him anymore. And to me, that's what it is. I may still have a thought that I'm not enough or something like that, but I know the difference now. And that's incredibly peaceful. So I'm incredibly grateful to the school. I'm happy to be here on the panel. I love these people that I'm up here with. And it's a real gift to be able to share the university program with you guys tonight. And if there's anything I think we're all going for is just to dissolve that illusion of separateness. Yeah, nice to see you tonight.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carolyn Freyer-Jones, and I graduated from the master's degree program in spiritual psychology 16 years ago. So unlike my panel members, I had not achieved really a whole lot of anything when I got to the University of Santa Monica. And so I want to give you a snapshot of where I was. So this was my life. So I was, I was a young professional, had a good job. I was a sales and marketing person. I was married about a year. I'd been with my husband probably about 10 years prior to that. And everything was, the word I've been thinking about all day as I was preparing for tonight is fine. Really, everything was fine. There was nothing particularly special about my life, or at least that's how I related to it at that time. It was all fine. I wouldn't say to you that I was like wildly happy. Occasionally I was somewhat despondent about the family that I had come from. Occasionally I would sort of question like, God, like I didn't have a lot to grab onto in my life. And I wouldn't have defined myself in any way as particularly spiritual. I mean, I was starting to read books, personal growth books, but again, nothing was really, it was all fine. It's the best word I can literally give you at this time. So I was what you would probably call a reluctant applicant to the University of Santa Monica. I came to an information evening, and being from New York originally, I had a lot of like, why do these people look so happy? Because remember, to me, life was fine. Why would anyone look more than fine? That seemed uncomfortable somehow to me. And I will say this, I came to an information evening, I had my little notebook, took a lot of notes, and I somehow decided inside that I would actually apply. And I did, and thankfully I was accepted into the program, but I will share this story. I come home that night to my husband, and he said, how was that evening? I said, I don't know, it was fine. But I decided to apply. My husband was like, what? I said, yeah, we'll see if I get in, whatever. And I can say this to you, that what occurred for me in the program was, it was all of a sudden, I was in a conversation that was way different than life is just fine. It became a conversation about what was possible in life. Like that there was a place inside of me that I started to have access to through learning the principles and practices of spiritual psychology. It's like my life came alive. It became a place of like, wow, I can I have dreams inside of me that I could actually do something with. It became, these areas that felt maybe upsetting or disturbing. I learned how to work with them. And probably the most important thing that I got from my education here was a context for how to live my life. A spiritual context, yes, and a context for how to work with challenges, with upset, with disturbances, with my mom, with all the people in my life, like how to use challenges for learning and growth, how to have a place, like all of a sudden life had tremendous meaning. And I've discovered that, wow, I have a purpose here, and I have something to contribute. And I'd never been in that kind of conversation before. And that was just magical to me. It's like it changed. The principles and practices of spiritual psychology are really the foundation from which I live my life, both professionally and personally. I'm a professional coach, so I work with individuals, men and women, in their lives and in their work. I also do coaching groups for women, and with my fabulous business partner who's also up here. She is no longer a lawyer. I'm happy to say that. She's now a coach as well. And I can just say to you this, that the principles and practices of spiritual psychology are a way, they're a way to create a life that has greater meaning, greater purpose, greater authenticity, and a lot more fun. Like, I will say this to you, my life is anything but fine. Anything but fine. Like, my life is fantastic. It's great. When I meet people who I know and they say, "How are you?" I say, "I'm great." Like, that word did not exist. Like, you don't say that. That's not right to say you're great. Like, who talks like that? Like, that was the world I came from. In New York, it's like, that was strange. People who said their lives were great, whoa, something's going on there. Don't know what that is. But now I live that. My husband also became a University of Santa Monica graduate. So we live in that context together, which is extraordinary. We have a fantastic daughter that, every challenge that she presents us with is just an opportunity for our growth. That being said, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Hi, my name is Michael Murphy, and I'm fine. I have to be careful that some of my life doesn't dribble out here, so I'm not going to talk about my experience with the Hells Angels at all. Okay? What I'm going to say is I was a normal kid from New York. I thought everybody swam in the streets. I thought they turned on the fire hydrant so you could get wet. I thought all trees grew out of cement pods. And the best part about it was I thought everybody lived like that. I thought everybody had parents with accents, and half your relatives didn't speak English, which turned out to be a great gift for me, because now I get by in about 5 languages now. But fast forward, I am a graduate of the class of 2011. I know some of you are out there, a little hoopah. And I tried to graduate from the 3rd-year program in 2012, but I also tried to die right in the middle of it. I failed. I took the coaching program with these 2 wonderful lead faculty members here, and it was really a fascinating experience for me. And then I came back and finished the 3rd year in consciousness, health, and healing in 2013. Now, how did I get here? My wife came. Right? Her doctor prescribed it for her. He actually wrote it on an RX pad and said, "Go do this." And a matter of fact, she applied after the 1st year started, and she was in the makeup weekend, which is coming up shortly. And I had a conversation with Ron recently where he just absolutely laughed about her experience there. He swore she would never finish the program. But she did, and she's also a lawyer. That was my contribution to society. I took 1 lawyer out of circulation. I have five children and 7 grandchildren. My children's ages range from, they're 40, 43, 42, 36, 11, and 7. I took this go forth and multiply seriously, Anyway, Inali came here, and within 3 months, I'm sleeping with a stranger. I mean, so it was such a dramatic change. I had to come down here to see what did you do with my wife, you know? And it was a wonderful change. And after overcoming all forms of resistance, I decided to take this program, and I've been blessed ever since. But more importantly, I also kept my car running in the parking lot for the first 2-3 months to make sure nothing strange happened in here. Prior to coming here, my life was great. I mean, I'm a living example of the ordinary can become extraordinary. I was the first person in my family to get past the 3rd grade. This was the first school I didn't get thrown out of. I managed to graduate from all the other ones, but I was really having a lot of fun doing it. I ended my career as CEO of one of the world's largest corporations. I mean, multi-billion. I had offices in 87 countries and factories in about 126 countries. I've traveled all over the world, and I really didn't find out who I was and what I loved until I came here. And I'm going to tell you a story, so I don't go on too long. I'll just end it with the story, and I'll answer any question you have later, if you'd like. I'll do it this way. Hace como más o menos 45 años pasado viviendo en México. Y cuando estaba ahí, I know you don't understand a word that I'm saying, but this is how it happened to me. About 45, 50 years ago, I'm 70 now, I lived in Mexico. I was going to school down there, and I was doing some volunteer work in a small town called Tlaxcala, which is kind of on the eastern coast of Mexico, not far from Veracruz. And I was volunteering doing a service project because I thought that would be a nice thing to do. And we were clearing a field that, let's see, what can I call it? It's where everybody went to the potty. And we were going to put in sanitary systems. And I was working with a little, and I mean little, a little nun. And I asked her a question. I said, I'm like 19 years old, 19, 20 years old. ¿Por qué você trabajando aquí? Why do you do this? And she said, Miguelito, little Michael, yo quiero que su mente enamore de su corazón. My wish for you is that your mind would fall in love with your heart. And I had no idea what she was talking about. Except I said, okay, now I know why you want to slop around in the excrement. But I had no idea what she was talking about. Now I know. I mean, I really know. And in my second year, my project was I wrote a book to my children, and I did it through Erickson's eyes. And a significant piece of spiritual psychology is that you learn well-grounded, well-founded psychological principles, and on top of that, you learn a consciousness, a series of consciousness exercises. Probably if you add them all up, there's probably over 50 of them. And I was the only one, and Erickson's probably claim to fame is he wrote a book about psychological profiles of life stages, so birth to 18 months and 18 months to 2 and what have you. And I was the only one in the class that had lived through all those life stages, so it was good. I mean, I have kids their age, and I didn't talk about my professional career. The book was titled, From My Heart to Yours, What This Father Wants His Children to Know. And I wrote it through all these life stages, and I gave it to him for Christmas. And it was a life-changing experience for me because I also discovered myself and my consciousness. And when they said here, a conscious world begins with conscious people, it really resonated with me because, conscious parenting begins with a conscious dad, And conscious leadership begins with a conscious leader. And conscious lovers begin with a conscious lover, And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be here and share with you and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for sharing. Well, now this is your opportunity to ask some questions of the panelists. And if you raise your hand, I'll call on one person at a time. So who's got a question?
My name is Calvin Williams.
Hi, Calvin.
I wanted the opportunity to come to the University of Santa Monica after I was exposed to it. This is my 3rd time here. I love these people. I love being around everybody here. How can spiritual psychology help me to deal with homeless children from the ages 12 to 17.
Let me take a crack at that, because I had some experience dealing with homeless children in Texas. I worked with Nikki Cruz in a ministry called Pulpit in the Shadows. And we ministered to homeless boys primarily in the streets of Houston in the 5th Ward. And this is before I had ever even heard of spiritual psychology. And it was a struggle. But upon reflection, I can tell you there's at least 3 very simple skills that I learned here that I really could have used if I was there. And the first one was seeing the loving essence. And it's a skill that's really easy to learn and easy to teach, because if you start from a place that we're not just people here, we recognize the spirituality of who we are, and I am a soul having a human experience, and so I look at you and I see you in there, Melvin, you know. And I was just telling Carolyn, I said, I like his face, you know. See, look at that. See, I see you. And the other skill I learned was perception checking, because especially with children, what they say is not always what they mean. You know? And this perception checking skills allows you to have a dialogue with them where you're constantly just double checking that you're hearing what they're saying, but what you're really saying to them is, I see you and I hear you. And those two, I'll stop with 2. Those 2 really, really would have helped me, and there's so many others. And bless you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, one of the profound things that I learned here was this, was doing away with this idea of kind of the victims and the people who are saving them. That we're all divine beings having this human experience for the purpose of our learning. And we've created this curriculum for ourselves in order that we can awaken and can learn. And, you know, that's been such a profound awakening for me to know that, and that when I do service work, when I work with people and so on, I'm like a few people in the room, there's a few people here who do service work in a prison, you know, up north. What makes that work is that in that relationship, there is no, you know, you're a victim of circumstances and I'm here to be of service to you. It's, we're both divine beings having a human experience for our learning, and the exchange goes both ways at all times. And I think there's a recognition from everyone in that experience, and any experience I go out into life with in a similar way, where that I'm not looking at that person that something wrong has happened, or that they're a victim of something, but they have everything in their power to direct the course of their lives. I just notice that makes all the difference in those circumstances.
I have a friend who graduated with me in 2004, and the master's program, the 2-year program, is a non-clinical degree. So for anyone who is going to become, let's say, a marriage and family therapist or a clinical psychologist, they'll usually go on and do another 2-year program, or we will have people that are already MFTs and clinical psychologists who will come and they will do the 2-year program at USM so that they get more of a niche training in what we call spiritual psychology. So a friend of mine who I went through the program, she went on and did another 2-year program, a counseling psychology program. And for those of you who don't know, when you do a 2-year program in counseling psychology, you have to do 3,000 hours of supervised work. So she got a job working downtown in Los Angeles at a homeless shelter. And she is working with all different types of people. And she recently shared a story with me. First of all, she loves it. And I remember her talking about these different choices that she had for her placements. And this was the last place she wanted to go, because she really thought, what do I have? What can I give to these people who are homeless? I don't have any experience. It was like her bottom choice, but it ended up being, I think, it paid, and it was a choice that supported her. So she ended up taking it, and she absolutely loves it. And she said that of all the training that she got in the 2 years of the program here and the 2 years in the counseling psychology program, it is those skills that, Mike, you said, that heart-centered listening, that seeing the loving essence, really looking at everyone as a spiritual being having a human experience. She said that the sessions that she's having with these individuals are incredibly deep, and the people that run the homeless shelter, they have been asking her, what are you doing? Like, how are you having these kinds of experiences with this population? We haven't seen this. So I think that there really is something to what everyone's saying here, and having watched someone do it, it's transformative, and really with whoever you would be relating with, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, my second question. Does spiritual psychology teach you how to get to the underlying causes of trauma and anger in the children's lives? I feel and I believe I need to touch the hearts and the souls of these children. I feel they had trauma in their life at a young age, or they have anger issues, and I need to get to the underlying causes.
As a student at USM, you'll learn, you learn over 40 communication skills. You learn a lot of different traditional approaches to psychology, and then it's all laid within a spiritual context. So in terms of you learning how to be with anybody, to draw out from them what's happened for them in their lives, there's no question that you would be able to do that. And I want to end that it's a different thing. Obviously there are people who are, licensed clinical psychologists and marriage and family therapists who have like an additional set of, let's call it, training that is different. But I would say to you this: the people I know that have attended USM and do work with children, they know how to be with children, and they know how to be with anybody really who's been through difficult experiences, and create a space where someone feels safe enough to share.
I have volunteered for the last 10 years at the prison project that Kurt has mentioned. And my feeling is that my greatest post-training after graduating was to go into that prison and learn how to hold within inside of myself, to not see them as victims, to not get caught up in the stories and the injustices and all of that. And I think that if there's anything I took away from the university education, was that ability to sit so deeply inside of myself to see another person and hold in that frequency of them being whole, completely whole, having all the same spiritual support that we all have. And that is what, to me, elevates the consciousness. It's holding until they can see that, until they can remember that. And so it was great practice, because there's some great opportunities in the prison to really drop into some right and wrong stuff. And so whether it be teenagers or whether it be inmates or whether it be anybody, that to me is one of the foundational things that the education rides on, is us, the place inside where we sit, has the greatest impact on humanity and others. And I really just want to acknowledge you. You're just a huge bright light. And I'm so glad you're on the planet, and I think the better you take care of yourself and hold in that, the more energy you'll have to do this work long term. It's good to see you. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful question, and it just reminds me of another principle that we learn here at USM in practice, which is healing is the application of loving to the places inside that hurt. And so much of the curriculum really speaks to what you're sharing. It's like, how do we learn how to identify, acknowledge the places inside that hurt? Because underneath anger is hurt, and underneath hurt is loving. And giving yourself, first yourself, have the experience of how do we heal those places inside where there's unresolved material, and then the capacity to facilitate that in others. And that is what this curriculum is about. And I know for myself, I've both experienced and witnessed people healing things for the last time. And that really is what's available here, is that issues that were issues are no longer issues. Healing is what happens here, and it's an incredibly powerful thing to be part of. And so I think that really speaks to the deeper questions, like is there a possibility of technology to help these kids use what's happened to them for their own growth, learning, and upliftment? And that has definitely been my experience here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I do have some email questions that we received. One is, and I'll address this to any of you here on the panel. This person's name is Johnny. What if you're not yet spiritually inclined, but know that you want to follow that path and develop your spirituality? Would USM welcome me into the master's program, even if I don't understand my spirituality and whether it's even there or how to access it?
I mean, I had even less than that when I came here. I was like, I don't know, divine being, having a human experience, that was a stretch for me. I wasn't quite, it's like, whatever. And I also did not tell anyone, not only did I don't think I told anyone I was doing the program, but I certainly never didn't use the word spiritual. Like, I'm doing a psychology program. Took me a good 6 months before I was willing to sort of share that. I had no spiritual practice. There was something about this place that really called to me. I definitely wanted to do it. I was great. I was happy to be here, but it took me almost the whole first year to sort of come into just like a security in being able to say, yeah, that I am on a spiritual path that is important to me. I am in a program for spiritual psychology, and it worked. It was, in some ways, it was better. So it absolutely is a program that's designed to meet each one of us where we are. I have classmates who had been on a spiritual path for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and it was a gorgeous program for them. And I was just brand spanking new, and it was gorgeous for me.
One quick comment. I would just say that it's sort of USM felt like when I came that it's sort of the United Nations of spiritual paths. It just sort of had this ability to matter, depending where you came from on that spectrum of religion, non-religion, but at the core, the essence is a place I think we can all agree is love. I don't think there's any faith, anything out there that will disagree that love is a great place to be, and that's at the heart of it to me. And so if you want to connect more to love, this will certainly help lead you to that place.
Thanks. Yeah?
Hi, everybody. I've noticed that some of the best people that can help you heal are often unhealed themselves. And this is after programs and after courses and after, going to see shamans in the Amazon. What are your thoughts on that and the ability to help others when we're still seeking inside ourselves? And what are your thoughts on this this idea that we need to be whole in order to help others, which rings true, but at the same time seems to have this very gray zone around it where it's kind of happening where it's not the case? And, yeah.
It's a great question. It's a great question. And my point of view as a USM graduate is that there are people that I can assist, given the growth work I've done, and there are people I can't yet assist. So to me, if I were to wait till I was whole, I wouldn't be helping anybody. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't, if I was wait until I was completely healed, I'd be sitting at home by myself, not working, doing nothing. And that doesn't help anybody either. So in terms of, to me, one of the greatest gifts of a USM education is that I was able to heal a lot, enough such that I knew I could make a difference in the lives of others. Enough. And one of the things that the faculty will say over and over again at USM is that we cannot take people into territory we have not gone. We can't. So I don't pretend to try to do that. It's like I know what I've worked on inside. I know what I've handled. I know what I'm still attempting to work on. I know the things that are still out there for me unhealed. So it's really clear to me. And to me, it's like, I don't know that anybody would say, it's like we're not, like one of the things to me that's one of the greatest gifts of a USM education is if you haven't been opened up to the possibility that you can be in service to others, helping others heal and grow in whatever you do. I'm not saying as a coach per se, but anything. Kirk would say he does that in his workplace with the people who work with him. And but you don't have to be whole. It's like, I'm good enough. I've got, somebody we know, it's like I only need to be one step ahead. And I know enough that like I'm not going to I'm going to be honest about that. So I don't pretend to be quote unquote healed. I don't even know what that looks like. I think I'm in pretty good shape, and I know that I have some tools and skills, and I can help others. Does that help in terms of your question?
That helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, something that you'll hear a lot when you come is the truth that, our growth is a process, not an event, right? It's not this moment where all of a sudden it's all done. We're all in a process of awakening, and I think the other key thing is that the premise is that we're already whole. Everyone in this room is already whole. That's not something that we're trying to achieve. What we're trying to achieve is awakening to that wholeness and letting go of the judgments we have that separate us from that knowing, right? And for me, everything I worked on in this room, and there are lots of things I worked on in this room during the process, now it's a gift that for those people who are going through the same things, I can recount my journey through that territory. And with the knowledge that there are still so many journeys that I'm making at the same time, that hopefully in the future I'll be able to take people down as well.
Thank you.
May I add something? I want to just play a little bit off what Kurt and Michelle said. Michelle said earlier that a significant part of healing is the application of love to the part that hurts. In my case, I kind of had to redefine whole, and I came to the realization that I was always whole. I just wasn't aware of it, and that I was loved, and that I am love. And the amazing thing that I experienced in here is the realization that I have all the requisite skills and ability within me to heal myself. And they have a fascinating process here. And the major difference between this and any other education that I've had is that this is highly experiential. And we break into what they call trios, where there is a neutral observer in the middle, and there on one side is a client, and on the other side is a facilitator. Okay? And we actually share an issue that has come forward for us. The neutral observer observes, and the facilitator just uses the principles and practices of spiritual psychology to facilitate my own awareness into my own healing. And it was very awakening for me. Especially in dealing with my younger children and my grandchildren. I see them totally different. The first group, time out was for sports. The second group, time out was a meaningful conversation that I was going to have with them when I got their attention. And so I hope this helps as you think through it.
Food for thought, lots of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Danielle. And I guess this whole time I'm wondering, some of you guys came in order to further yourselves and in order to kind of grow and learn yourselves, and then other people are there to kind of help facilitate with that, but also to kind of move forward and be able to coach others. And I'm wondering, throughout your time learning and throughout your time growing through the programs, kind of where the emphasis was put, if it was, this is surprisingly, I love how you guys are talking about how you grew a lot yourself, and I'm wondering if a lot of people come here to further themselves first and foremost, or if it's to take practices to apply to your work as a potential therapist or life coach or stuff like that.
It is a great question. I think people come here for all of those reasons. Why do they walk through the door? What appeals to them about the program? I think all of us have a variety of outcomes we're looking for. And I certainly had outcomes I wanted. I wanted my physical world life to be different, for sure. I wanted my career to be different. I wanted my relationships with my husband and my children to be different. And and I wanted to live a more inspired life. You know, I wanted to have more of that experience. So, and what I learned is, you know, the way I experienced the world, the way I interacted with the world, what kept me from having the experience I wanted, both in my ability to be with other people and to have the kind of life I want, was the material inside of me. So judgments I was holding, beliefs I was believing and living as if they were true that weren't true or that were limiting, you know, the ways in which I was what was in the way of that, having that external experience. So even though I wouldn't have necessarily, if you had talked to me then, I would not have said to you, I'm here to work on myself. What I experienced very quickly was that when I did work on myself, my outer world changed. So regardless of why I came, what I learned was when I do the work inside myself, my life is different. I'm different. The world's different. You know, I think someone said, you know, the quote here, you know, a conscious world begins with conscious people. And so if we want to, you know, and we can't take people to territory we haven't been and all these things. And so, you know, the place we have the greatest leverage is inside of us. That's the place we have dominion. That's the place we can work most effectively. And so it became very apparent to me very quickly that was, if I was going to put my money someplace, working on inside of me was the place to go to get the results that I want. Does that help?
Yeah.
So I think there's a range. People come for all kinds of reasons, and that tends to be the experience.
Yep. My little ad would be, there's a lot of great quotes or, you know, different phrases that get used in this program. One of them is outer experience is a reflection of inner reality, right? So I found that the more that I look out in the world and see all this great stuff that needs to be fixed, people, situations, you know, man, you know, I could really come here and get to work and help the world. It was interesting how when I started to actually hold that idea that what I'm looking at is a mirror for me, everything, and I do that work, it's quite amazing how you come back to Thanksgiving a year later from somebody that you couldn't stand has all of a sudden done the program too somehow. You know, Uncle John is like just a transformed human being somehow once I've done my work, right? And like somehow the world's starting to fix itself once I actually did my work. So I think we could come in looking for the ability to take the tools out in the world, and very often we'll find that happens. But more profoundly, it's my mirror gets cleaned up, and then I get to see what really is. As Kirk said, you know, we're all whole, and then we just get to see that.
Does that answer your question? Are you asking because you're thinking, how might I use the program professionally, or?
Yeah, I'm just, it's just interesting how a lot of people talk about their own personal experiences, which is not something that I find is common in like other master programs, because many you just learn and to apply that knowledge. So it sounds like the majority of you guys went in order to learn about yourselves and to grow yourselves, and then to kind of take that further instead of, I guess, learning skills and ways to help. I don't know exactly how to phrase it.
No, I think that's really accurate. I mean, and it's different for each of us. I mean, like if you had asked me, well, are you going there to learn about yourself? I would have said no. I would have said no. I hope not. Is that really what I'm going to have to do? Right, like so, and it was a good thing. So it's like I would say that the reasons people say they come and then what happens when they come are wildly different.
So you learned, and then after this program, you're like, oh yes, I want to be a life coach.
I would say as I was in the seats doing the work, and it's very different. You said it very well. It's very different than a standard master's degree program, because yes, the curriculum is all about you. Everything you learn, all the techniques, all the approaches, everything you're going to apply to your life, because USM's point of view is whether you're going to do this just to live a better life or you're going to use it professionally, that's the best way we can serve others, is the degree to which we know how to serve ourselves. So that's wildly different than a lot of other programs. I would say to you that while I was here, the idea that I might be able to use what I was learning with others started to become like, wow, that I could do that. Like this, I could use this. But it wasn't even fully formed. I mean, you know, for me, that didn't come in till much later after I graduated. So it was just that was my specific journey. But if you're thinking that you might want to use it professionally, which it sounds like that's what you're looking at, I mean, I couldn't think of a better place, because you're going to use your life as the experiment. Your life, and then you will know firsthand whether or not, like, well, can I help someone else with their life?
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Let me give you a cold shower of reality. Yeah, it could be okay, warm shower. It'll be fine, you know, I promise you. Throughout my business career, and I did all my business career, I did without a master's in spiritual psychology. Upon reflection, I remember, I think I told Ron once, I said, if I had known about this place, I'd be down here interviewing every graduate that I could find. Because if you complete this program, you can't help but apply it to your personal life. So regardless of why you come here, whatever calls you to this type of education, you can't help but apply it personally, professionally, parenting, relationship-wise. I mean, I've seen doctors become healers in here. I've seen lawyers become peacemakers. You know, I've seen leaders really finally understand that the essence of leadership is transformational in itself, because you have to take people places that they don't want to go. And the only way they're going to do that is if they trust you. And if they're going to trust you, because they're going to see inside you, and everyone in here has had the experience where somebody walks into the room and you go, I wonder who that is. They have a presence about them, they have an energy about them, and you will walk away from here with that, and you can't help. You may come here with all kinds of plans. I just want to know what you do with my wife, you know, that's all. And I mean, I liked what it was, but I didn't understand it. But if you come here, and if you're called to do this, you can't help but walk out and apply it personally and professionally, and it will serve you far beyond your beliefs.
Thank you guys so much.
So a question from someone who wrote in, I'm interested in changing careers to something more worthwhile. Is it too late at 53? No. No. Anything more specific? It's just not too late.
I think when we have the ability to come into that, sort of see more clearly who we are, it's amazing the kind of opportunities that open up that we never thought about before. The kind of ways that we can express ourselves, and I don't think age has anything to do with it. I mean, there's so many examples of people who started amazing careers in their 50s and 60s, and I don't know, as a guy who just turned 50, it's hard to believe that even that question was alluding to like too late. That feels like that's really like an assumption that is really old, but I think that this person sounds like they're just wondering if there's still enough time to become who they want to be. And I think there's no question to me. I'd like to hear from the rest of you, but.
In the intro, I talked a little bit about the company that I co-founded with my partner, Sebastian Buck. I'm 52 now, so I started it around 50. And, you know, I regard it personally as my opus, like of everything I've done, like this really creatively, purpose-wise, in every way is really the culmination of all I learned in the mainstream part of business and all I learned here at USM, and applying it to an organization and a business that does positive social impact. And for me, it's, you know, the age doesn't really come into it. It's am I aligning with my purpose, and does that make me come alive? And it does every day. And I'm surrounded by, you know, super young people who really keep me energized too, because we're all aligned in that purpose together. And again, that alignment came for me personally with things that I worked on in here. And really, I don't even think about the age thing so much. It's really just, I come into work every day, I feel energized, I feel the love in everyone around me, and that's really what matters. So I would tell that person, I'll try and find you up there somewhere, to, just go for it. If you find your purpose, your age will become a non-item, and it'll all be about, you just coming alive inside.
And one of the things that I would share with you from an admissions perspective is that we talk to a lot of people over the course of the year, and as I mentioned earlier, we have students ranging in age from mid-20s to mid-70s, and what often happens is when you're a student in the class, it really is that diversity of age range that creates the rich experience. It's like, I think that there are times when you'll sit down in a trio and you'll be with a person who is, 80, and they're bringing something completely different to that trio experience than, let's say, myself at 48 would bring to it. And the same working with someone younger. We do a workshop called Loyalty to Your Soul. Doctors Ron and Mary Holnick, who are the founding faculty of the university and really acknowledges the pioneers of spiritual psychology in the world, they wrote a book that was published by Hay House. It's called Loyalty to Your Soul, The Heart of Spiritual Psychology. And from that book, they created a workshop. It's called Loyalty to Your Soul. And I got to do it this summer, and the first trio I sat down with two young women, and they were, I think, one was 24 and one was 25. And I remember thinking to myself, like, uh-oh, like, I'm with these very young people. I know I'm this experienced person, what's this going to be like for me? And it really ended up being just one of the most depthful trios that I had been in all my years at USM, and it really made me I stood up and shared about it and acknowledged that, and it really made me just recognize the value of us at all ages, and you really do get that experience at USM. So to this person that is wondering, can I start a new career, I think the question that we also hear in admissions is, at 53, can I do a master's program? And of course, our answer is absolutely yes. So.
Hi, guys. My name is Sam Morris. I'm the founder of Zen Warrior Training, and I want to acknowledge all of you guys for being here tonight because it's awesome, and the work that you're doing right now is incredible, and it's just awesome to have you all here tonight. I work with people to be able to conquer challenges through a system of principles that I've developed, and so much of it sounds like exactly what you share. And a big part of my experience started 15 years ago when I was paraplegic in a car accident and caused by a drunk driver. And so much of the healing that I've gone through has involved the exploration of my body as well as my mind. And so the one missing element that I haven't quite heard anything about yet in terms of the curriculum here is there anything that addresses the connection with the body and the mind? Because so much of my healing has come from really establishing the connection throughout my entire system, and not just my thinking mind, not just my heart, but everything, so that I'm really exploring any kind of patterns of limitation that have somehow manifested in my body as a result of trauma.
The approach at USM over the course of the 3 years is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So in everything that you're doing over the course of the program, you're addressing yourself on all those levels. And as James said earlier, spiritually, we have people who are Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim, Sikh. There's everyone in the classroom. So when you work on the spiritual level, you're really working with whatever that means to you. Mental, emotional level, we all know what those levels mean. And then on the physical level, it's something that you are tracking, working with, paying attention to, gestalting with, addressing over the course of the whole time. And so that's sort of my big overriding, response to your question is it is an integrative approach. And I realize that we haven't really addressed as much the physical level, but it is definitely a part of it. And please, you guys, whatever your experience was.
And I would just point out the third year of the program is called Consciousness, Health, and Healing. And it's all about the connection between, it really asks the question, what is it to have radiant health on all levels? And what is the connection between consciousness and healing, and a large emphasis on the physical body, on chakras, and it's an extraordinary, extraordinary program. So that is the whole third year has a very intensive focus on that very question, and it's definitely integrated into the first 2 years as well. I would say the curriculum and Ron and Mary's experience and breadth of ability and knowledge and ability to support people is on that foundation. So when that kind of material comes up, and it does in the classroom, people dealing with those questions about what's going on in my body or how to relate to physical challenge or illness, that is an integral part of what gets worked on here and what gets talked about in that context. It's a great question. But really the whole third year, that's what the year's about.
And it looks like your question has prompted our president, Dr. Ron Holnick. I think he wants to respond to that, so we'll bring him up here.
Why do I always seem to wind up coming up here on the last question? Thank you for asking that question. It's a great question.
You're welcome.
When we move into the area of spiritual psychology, the basic tenet is, as has been shared up here, we're divine beings having a human experience. So every experience that we have is designed by our own soul to assist us in waking up to the essential reality of who we are. Some people will use one kind of experience, for example, a prison experience. Other people will use a physical experience, such as the one that you are undergoing. It reminds me of in my early training with my first teacher, the time that we were going to visit someone in a hospital who was nearing their transition from cancer, and we were going to visit him. And as we were walking toward the hospital, there was a woman wheeling a young man in a wheelchair coming toward us. And it was one of these things where the guy was sitting in the wheelchair. We've seen these people sitting there like this, and they don't seem to have much control over themselves. Now, my teacher was very, very, very clairvoyant. So as we go by them, she says to me, Ron, you really have no need to feel sorry for that young man. So she's seeing me clairvoyantly feeling sorry for this young man. And she says, the fact of the matter spiritually is that this is his last lifetime. This condition that he finds himself in, this is his last lifetime. He will successfully complete it simply by enduring. Simply by living out the life for as long as he's going to be here in that condition. And she said, and this was the amazing part, she said, he knows that. He is deliriously happy inside. He looks out at the world from a place of, he's having a wonderful time. He gets taken care of. Nobody asks him to do anything. He has no real responsibilities. And he knows if he just sits in that chair over a period of time, he graduates from the Earth School. So there are people who have physical challenges, and they work their awakening for whatever their karmic dispensation is through the physical. So that would be what you're doing.
Okay. I think a piece of my question is still a little bit misunderstood. It's not that I don't get where you're coming from, I do. And I do feel that I made a choice spiritually to have this experience. What I'm referring to is the consciousness that's held within the entire physical system, so that it's not just a mental construct of the patterns that we have learned to live by that may be self-limiting beliefs, but also fully physical, systemic stuff that we hold in our entire system, which can be used as an opportunity to get to know ourselves, not just from a mental place, but from an entirely, from the place of the entire system, of the intelligence of the entire body. And so it just, I feel like the piece that I'm missing is there anyone who has addressed working with the intelligence of the entire body? In other words, a lot of my training came from Emily Conrad, who developed continuum movement. And so much of my healing came about through explorations, internal meditations and explorations of the fluid system of my body, so that it was really learning how to take myself out of my limited relationship with my body. I'm actually less limited now than I was before my injury happened, through the explorations that I've done physically and really bridging the physical with the mental. And I just feel that that's a really essential aspect to the healing process, is going beyond just the mental awareness patterns and into the physical patterns as well, so that the entire system can experience healing.
This is a hard thing to conceptualize. We don't work that way, nor do we work with the mind that way. We don't go in on either of those ways. What we go in on is the underlying unresolved issue in the consciousness of the person, whether it's showing up physically or mentally or whatever way it goes. What our prime methodology is to assist people in bringing forward the areas within which they are suffering, and then dissolving whatever it is that is at the root of that suffering. So they let go of it, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whatever it is, because our perspective is that the suffering is all based upon how we see ourselves in the world. And suffering is a feedback mechanism that tells us that from a spiritual perspective, we are still off course. And we're getting feedback that's telling us that. So we go in on what the person is experiencing, and we have a whole variety of ways that we have developed over the past 30 some odd years of doing that, so that the person can get in touch with whatever it is that their soul is attempting to clear through their life, this life. And that is what we focus in on. For some people, it's more physically based. For some people, it's more mentally based. For some people, it's more life-based. They find that they're having trouble being successful in the world. For some people, it's thinking that they're not good enough. So these are all different ways that people use as a metaphor to bring forward whatever their, what we call spiritual curriculum is, that they are here on this planet at this time to heal. So this is the way that we approach it.
I really appreciate the work that you're all doing, so thank you.
Thank you. So since I'm up here, let me also extend my personal thank you for all of you for coming this evening. I'm also the CFO here at USM, which is the Chief Fund Officer. Chief Fund Officer. So I am not, I mean, I've never understood why people think that this work is going to be terribly hard. Or my job is to make it fun. And what we have found is that one of the most healing things we can all do together is laugh and begin to recognize some of the foolishness that we all are running in our consciousness for no good reason at all, other than we bought into it some long time ago. And I mean, these people are not kidding. You know, they know what they're talking about. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you. I want another round of applause for the panel. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. And again, thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to hanging out and talking with you. Thank you.